You with the one and only boxing guru. For this episode, we're going to focus in on Toledo's own big baby Jared Anderson versus George Arias. It's going down tomorrow night. This is a major fight for Toledo's own big baby Jared Anderson. This is his last co-featured bout before he headlines a major card in his hometown of Toledo, Ohio, going down supposedly July 1st downtown at the Huntington Center. The whole city is lit. We can't wait for July to get here for Big Baby to have his major bout, and the whole cast of ESPN Top Ranked Boxing here in attendance. So it's going to be electrifying for the city, and not only just for Big Baby superstar status. But in this fight, this is a very intriguing fight. When I first heard about this fight, I was like, oh, Top Ranked prank again. You know, they picked a guy 5'11", and Big Baby 6'4". This is just an easy walk in the park for Big Baby Jared Anderson. But when I did more research on George Arias, I believe this is a good challenge and a good test for Big Baby Jared Anderson. Even though George is supposed to be like a miniature version or the second coming of Mike Tyson, I don't think so, because he don't have the power, he don't have the skill set. But he definitely has the work attitude and the intelligence of trying to mimic Mike Tyson. So I believe this is definitely going to be a very intriguing fight and an entertaining fight, because this is one of Top Ranked's bright ideas over at their matchmaking. I give a shout out to Brad for, setting this fight up in the Top Ranked staff, because I believe Big Baby at this time of his career, he definitely need an opponent like George Arias. The reason why I'm saying that is because Big Baby, it would teach him patience in the ring, because George is a smaller fighter. With him being a smaller fighter, you don't want to give up your height. And Big Baby sometimes have the tendencies to overwhelm his opponent. And then you don't want to smother your work and come into the shorter fighter, where he can throw looping overhand rights or left and try to clip him, or hitting with shots that Jerry Forrest did in his last fight. So it would be a reminder to Big Baby to stay behind a jab and a long one too. So it would teach Big Baby patience. I believe this is the whole mindset and the whole game plan of the matchmaking over at ESPN, and the development of Big Baby Jared Anderson as he's on the road to becoming a heavyweight champion. And this would be another fight the spotlight Big Baby Jared Anderson attributes, and it would teach him patience in the ring. So I definitely like this fight. I definitely like it for a lot of reasons, because I believe George, with his foot movement, is going to cause problems for Big Baby. What I mean by problems is, with lateral foot movement, he gonna make Big Baby come forward. He's going to use the wide ring, because it's going to be a big ring, because Shakur Stevenson is headlining the card. So, Shakur definitely loves a big ring. So it would benefit George, because he's the smaller fighter. Instead of him engaging Big Baby, I think he, in his mind state, he's going to be looking to try to be the first one to go the distance with Big Baby Jared Anderson. I think that's going to be his first game plan and mind state, because listening to him in some of the interviews, he said he's not in the rush. Plus, he knows he's the shorter fighter. And with him being the shorter fighter, he's going to have to fight in spurts. What I mean by spurts is he's going to have to be strategical in his attacks against Big Baby Jared Anderson, because Big Baby definitely is going to be trying to establish a jab, a long jab, and right hands, and then hooks to the body. So it's going to be very intriguing how Big Baby attacks and walks down George Arias. But I believe George is definitely going to be on the back foot for majority of rounds, but he's definitely going to come forward to be able to offset Big Baby with a double jab. And then he's going to give angles. What I mean by that is, with his movement, he going to move from side to side. to get Big Baby Jared Anderson not able to set off combination, because as a heavyweight, Big Baby Jared Anderson definitely throws good combination if his feet is planted. But if you get him to move and different things like that, I believe George is definitely going to use that tactic, because as a Dominican fighter, they definitely has good movement as Dominicans. They decent boxers, good movement. For example, you have Fortuna, who used the ring wisely. You have Juan Guzman that used the ring wisely. You had so many Dominicans that floated around the ring and then tried to counter you as in the process of you chasing them down. So I believe that would be George's game plan. So Big Baby Jared Anderson has to be mindful of that. Big Baby, as he comes forward, he has to use his jab, keep his hands up high, like he normally does. Big Baby shoots and pull back. He's definitely good at keeping range. He pulls back with a high guard. So that would pick off some of the looping wide shots that George Arias is definitely going to be trying to throw. And then that will leave him open. So I'm looking for Big Baby to come under with uppercuts to the body and to the head. So I'm going to look for that and then come back with a hook to expose George for those wide looping shots. So it's definitely going to be intriguing. I think it's going to be like a chess match, because George seemed like that cerebral. He's a thinker in the ring because of his shortness, and he uses pressure to offset him. Even though he don't have the punching power, he definitely try to be mindful and uses his gift as far as his foot movement and things of that nature, because his foot movement is his best asset, because he can controls the distance like Mike Tyson did against a lot of heavyweights in the 80s and 90s. Mike Tyson had that cat-like quickness far as cutting the distance, and George definitely has good foot movement. He's not quick as Mike as cutting the distance, but he definitely can do that. So Big Baby has to be mindful of that. That's why that jab is going to be very critical, and that's why I believe the matchmaking over at ESPN definitely picked this in the process of moving Big Baby Jared forward, because he definitely has to be mindful to stay behind a nice long jab and right hand. Even if you don't get the knockout, you want to show the discipline as doing that, because when he step up in the competition of real top 10 fighters of that nature, you're going to have to be mindful and careful how you just bull in, because you can get counter clipped with heavy, bigger shots by bigger guys. Because Big Baby only fought 2 guys that was, you know, his height or taller. So it has to be mindful of that. So I believe this fight is a fight to teach Big Baby to stay behind a jab in the right hand and just set up punches, whatever's that's there. Because if Big Baby comes forward and get too close, he can get countered with those looping shots that George like to do. But if Big Baby does this right, like I believe that the matchmaking over at ESPN is trying to teach him on the slide, stay behind that stick in the right hand, everything will be all right. He won't take it many punches. So that's what make George has to come forward with a double jab and then use that Mike Tyson type of bob and weave to get in to cut the distance. So it's going to show you who can make adjustments in the fight and push the fight, because at times, George going to definitely try to push the fight, because if Big Baby is staying behind that 1-2 and being disciplined and patient, everything going to be beautiful. It's just going to be a walk in the park, a unanimous dominant victory, because he's not going to be in range for any oncoming fire from George or anything like that. George will have to take all the chances and different things. So it's definitely going to be intriguing to see if Big Baby Jared Anderson follow, in my opinion, ESPN matchmaking game plan to help him develop on the job, far as just staying basic as a big man, shooting a jab, 1-2s, basic jab against a shorter fighter, and being able to show different range, you know, turning the fighter and clipping him with that. So it's going to be very intriguing to see if this goes down. But Big Baby has to be mindful, like I said, when George moves around the ring, Big Baby, as he chases him to try to cut the ring off, Big Baby definitely has to be mindful of not throwing looping punches, because Big Baby definitely likes to throw combinations. So when you chase George, sometimes just single shots would be perfect, because once you try to throw a combination after being moved, as George gonna move Big Baby around the ring, for instance, he gonna shoot like a 1-2, George gonna be on the opposite side. Then when Big Baby comes back with the right hand, that's when George can slide in between the shots and try to clip Big Baby. That's what Forrest did. As Big Baby pressuring him, smothering and giving up his range, and then trying to throw shots too close, that's where he got clipped at. So it's gonna be very intriguing to see if Big Baby learn from that mistake, develop from that mistake. I believe that's why ESPN Top Ranked Boxing has set this fight up so it can go down like that, to teach distance and range in this game. So in my prediction of this fight, I'm looking for this fight, in my opinion, to get some rounds. I believe George is the right guy to get some rounds for Big Baby, to give him the work, to give him the patience that he need again, because it's been a minute since Big Baby got some rounds in. You know, it's going to be kind of intriguing like that Jamaican guy that did it. He was moving, Langston them was moving, so it stretched the fight out, even though Big Baby got knockouts against Langston and the Jamaican Kingsley. But, you know, it was an intriguing fight because Kingsley was moving, countering pretty good. And so George is definitely going to try to use that tactic to get the bigger Big Baby to shift his weight. You want the bigger guy to shift his weight and you catching in between. So is definitely going to be George's game plan. So Big Baby definitely has to be mindful of that. Plus, moving forward into his future career, he has to be mindful of being patient and just taking what's given to him instead of trying to force it. Because, you know, as a young fighter, sometimes they get excited and try to force the fight. That's when they can get clipped. Their defense is not on par, especially when you step up against top echelons. They will capitalize on your mistake. So it's definitely going to be that. So I'm looking for George to go into like a turtle shell. What I mean by that is he gonna crouch down even lower and keep his guards tight so it can nullify a lot of that body work that Big Baby likes to use. And what it's going to do is going to brace him and protect him from a lot of wide open shots. But if George starts looping shots, Big Baby can counter him. So I'm looking for this fight to go later into the rounds and give Big Baby the work he needs. So I'm looking for it to go maybe 8 to 10 rounds. So this could be the person that gives Big Baby a unanimous, you know, go the distance with Big Baby. But if not, I think Big Baby will get a late round stoppage. It's between 8 to 10. So it's going to be critical how this fight play out, because I just believe George is selected by ESPN matchmaking for a reason. And with how thick he is at the top, he can use that as a shell like a turtle. So I believe they using him for development, more development for Toledo's own Big Baby Jared Anderson. But I definitely got Big Baby Jared Anderson winning this fight by a late TKO stoppage or a unanimous decision on the scorecards. These are the words for the one and only Boxing Guru. We'll see what happens tomorrow night on ESPN.